Today is the 27th regular meeting of the Lake County Board of Commissioners. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear God, please bless our meeting today. May our discussions be fruitful, our decisions wise, and our community strong. Amen.
Amen.
Madam Clerk, roll call please.
Commissioner McIntosh?
Present.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Present.
Commissioner Beveridge?
Here. This brings us to public portion. Anyone wishing to address the board on agenda items only, please raise your hand, and you will have 3 minutes after stating your name and address. Anybody for public portion? All right, seeing none. Madam Clerk, please proceed with resolutions.
In the Utilities Department, resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash within the Lake County Department of Utilities Fund 597 for Project 429L 2019 GCCS expansion and the Solid Waste Fund.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Commissioner McIntosh?
Aye.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Beveridge?
Aye.
Resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash within Lake County Department of Utilities Fund 597, Project 481L 2024, Wheel Wash and the Solid Waste Fund.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Commissioner McIntosh?
Aye.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Beveridge?
Aye.
Resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash within Lake County Department of Utilities Water Fund and Project Fund 595, Glenview and Tarbell Waterline Replacement Project 477W 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Commissioner McIntosh?
Aye.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Beveridge?
Aye.
In the Finance Department, resolution approving payment of bills as listed on the Commissioner's Approval Journal in the amount of $3,048,798.33.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Commissioner McIntosh?
Aye.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Beveridge?
Aye.
Resolution approving purchase orders as listed on the Commissioner's Purchase Order Approval Journal in the amount of $715,322.45.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Commissioner McIntosh?
Aye.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Beveridge?
Aye.
Resolution increasing appropriations for various general and non-general fund accounts.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Commissioner McIntosh?
Aye.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.
Commissioner Beveridge?
Aye.
Resolution advancing cash and transferring cash and appropriations within various general and non-general fund accounts.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I would just like to take a minute to address. I know that this is we're transferring some money around to continue the program that the board started last year of paying our debt down for the Public Safety Center. So I just want to commend the county and everybody for the planning. I'm proud to be part of an organization that takes on financial responsibility. And as we just said in our investment advisory meeting, interest rates are both beneficial to the county, but also at a point a burden because the cost of debt, and it's a balancing act. We are faced very often with necessary projects. This safety center was definitely a very necessary project, and it's one that I think when it's done, everyone can take a great deal of pride in. But it represents a lot of financial responsibility, tough decisions, many years of saving, and discipline to stay the course of it. So I just want to say that I have a lot of pride in what's going on here, and I extend thanks to those that preceded me in being here. Certainly I didn't have as much to do with it as others did, but very proud for this moment.
Thank you. Anything, sir? You're good.
I would just second my colleagues' shared thanks. We're very grateful to our County Administrator, Jason Boyd, also Joel DeMar, our Director, for the hard work they've done with their staff in an accelerated pay down of the debt. It's hard enough to meet the minimum requirements, but over a 2-year period, if I'm not mistaken, we'll have paid down $50 million. So $25 million a year, a total of $50 million of advance payments. That's a pretty significant chunk of the debt paid down on top of the cash down payment. In a world where people said it was impossible to build the jail without raising taxes, to not only be doing that without cutting corners, but to be paying back the debt in an advanced schedule to save interest payments for the county, I'm really proud of the fiscal responsibility of my colleagues, our staff, and everyone who helped to make this possible.
I just want to echo, when I took office at the beginning of 25, I believe we took the debt out at the end of 24, September-ish, fall of 2024. We took out a total of 115 million or so in debt, 65 million in bonds, 50 million in notes. When we sat down one of our first meetings and went through the finances, the goal was over a 5-year period to pay down those $50 million in notes. That has been paid off and will be paid off in 2 years this fall. The appropriations and the transfer we made here will be able to accomplish that, as you said, basically 3 years early. And I want to say the culture and philosophy is the 2 words I wrote down, because kudos to all of the wonderful hard work that everybody has done, as you said, from our administrator and our finance team, but also the other departments around this county, and understanding that there's a culture and a philosophy that we're trying to put in place in here. Not only were we able to build a jail without raising taxes, but I do believe we've actually cut some of our own tax revenues here, while also being able to accelerate the pay down on the debt. And that doesn't happen by accident. That takes a lot of hard work by a lot of folks. But now the goal for the next 3 years, the first opportunity we have to call some of those bonds will come up in the fall of 3 years from now, a little over 3 years. And so the money that we can save over the next 3 years, we'll be able to call some of those bonds. So we took out $65 million in bonds. If we're able to save another $25 million or so, well, that allows us to retire those $25 million in bonds, and then we would only have to carry forward 40 and be able to pay that off. So while it's an amazing accomplishment financially, I think that we're being able to do this, the work is not done, and the culture and the philosophy has to continue, that we have another goal set in place 3 years from now to be able to pay down as much on those bonds as possible, so that we can build the safety center that we had to build, but also continue to be able to fund the resources and the services around the county. So I just wanted to echo those comments and set that stage going forward, for the next 3 years of how we approach this. So.
And Mr. President, if I could just highlight your point, because perhaps I was being too modest about what the Board of Commissioners and our staff have accomplished collectively, and I don't want to take away from that. Not only have we not raised taxes, but in the form of doubling the homestead exemption for last year, doubling the owner occupancy credit, reducing the crime lab levy, instituting the senior discount of 25% for water and sewer, and then increasing that discount from 25 to 30%. The county has repeatedly, every chance it's had, given more back to the taxpayer, and I'm proud to be a small part of that.
Just one thought to build on it too. I think what you said about this not being over at this point and there being more to go, I think it's important to underscore the fact of everything that's been said here today, is that this isn't just about a one-time situation, or we're going to get this done and then move on, but it's about setting on a mindset and a culture, so to speak. And I know, having paid attention to the county for years and just now being here for about half a year and working with everybody, I can sort of see the mindset about saving and responsibility, and I know some of the history with the county budget. So I think we're early on here in starting a process that's going to keep the county in a good spot, no matter what happens with the economy. If it goes up or down, that we're going to be in a position to deliver the services and do the work that we need to do. So it's even though the jail project's well underway, we're just at the beginning of a series of things that are going to put the county in a better position.
Thank you. All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner McIntosh.
Aye.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Burbidge.
Aye. This brings us to our departmental reports. No. No. All right, we'll start with the county administrator, I guess.
Do we want me to give my report? I know we have Ryan here from...
I was told, it's not on my agenda, but I was told that you were going to handle the
Perfect. Well,
introducing
I will
Ryan
start.
and teeing up that conversation.
I will start with some other items, and then I'll bring Ryan up in just a moment.
Okay.
quickly, as it relates to the Lake County Sheriff's Office, it's kind of exciting to see the front facade, the masonry guys and gals kind of brought the platforms down early this week, so you can really see the structure of the building, and from the original renderings darn near 3 years ago to today. So that's exciting. The masons have moved around to the southeast west corner. They're working over by the juvenile court. So we're continuing to proceed on the jail. I know the sheriff's staff was up in Wisconsin the past couple days reviewing all of the electronics, which are going to essentially run the brains of the building, the cameras, the access control, the doors, et cetera. Just a brief conversation with Sheriff Leon Bruno that went really well. So excited to hear from his team when they get back and what we're going to have going on there.
Jason, real quick, if the community wants to, like, as you talked about the masonry out front and everything, if the community wants to see what the building would actually look like with all the quality masonry before the statue of Sheriff Leon Bruno goes up, is now the best time to do that?
Well, yes.
Okay, just timeline. I just hadn't seen the schedule for that, so just wanted to make sure.
Mentor just unveiled their Garfield bronze statue, so we're
It'll-
behind them in production.
That will pale in comparison to
Yes.
yes. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, so
Please
that's-
continue.
Also, I'd like to, a quick thanks, with all the heat we've had the past couple of weeks, our buildings and grounds crew, our telecom crews, in addition to the dog shelter, our IT data center, the sheriff's office is warm. We've been mobilizing assets all over our portfolio of structures, and lots of guys and gals coming in late nights, so I just want to thank them for doing the best they can in this just unfortunate situation. As we know, the building C, where the auditor, treasurer, recorder, veterans is, just by luck or bad luck, we were peeling off the roof and doing a comprehensive roof replacement during that first heat wave, so that presented some challenge, but that's coming along. So just want to thank our staffs from all of our departments and their help the past couple days. I'd also like to provide an update on the dog shelter. Joel and I have spent the vast majority of our time from last week to today meeting with entities, the Lake Humane Society, Geauga County, Pet Fix of Northeast Ohio. I'm probably forgetting some folks to get a better understanding of what I can do better and relay that down to our team at the dog shelter. Had a fantastic meeting a week ago tomorrow at the Humane Society for 3.5 hours. Very candid and professional conversation on moving forward and what that should look like, hearing from the citizens in the meeting, multiple phone calls, emails, and trying to get our shelter to the best possible place that we need, and using best management practices that are out there and that we've heard from. So of note, I'm excited to talk about our announcement. Beginning next week, we're going to have a formal partnership with Humane Society to help evaluate animals in our shelter, help us train our staff a little bit better to help assess animals for anxiety, stress, the temperament of the dogs using the SAFER assessment method, heartworm testing, helping our shelter just with the enrichment of our pups and dogs that are in the facility. And I know a big thing was the spay and neutering. Dogs that are going to be put up for adoption via our pending partnership with Humane Society and other partners. We spoke with Pet Fix Northeast Ohio yesterday to spay and neuter those animals before they're put up for adoption. We heard a lot about that. We have obviously a long way to go, but I feel just in the past 6 days and what I've heard and what I've learned, I think we're going to be on a good trajectory of getting that shelter where it deserves to be, where we've heard from the residents and the dog owners. So I just want to let you know, I want to especially thank the Humane Society Christian and his staff for their time. My dad always said constructive criticism, and if you can't take that, then get out the kitchen. And that's what we got. We got constructive criticism, and I think that's going to make me a better understanding of the operations and where things should be, and then take those within the limits of the revised code and provide a better operation out there. So also want to thanks to Tracy and Vito especially, who've been working out there. And so I think we're on the right path forward. We know there's volunteer potential opportunities down the road. We're hearing that. Obviously that comes with being able to staff the facility properly. and adequately? Do we need to look at flexing our time, Saturdays? And I know that's been talked about over the years, so everything is on the table, but I'm very proud of the first week of what I've learned. Joel's been a huge asset. So we're going to continue to take these, I don't even call them baby steps, but legitimate steps forward on a week-by-week basis. Yeah, it's been, and the shelter itself, yesterday I was out there a couple times. We had, I think, 9 pups, no more than that. Shelter's in the mid-70s. We've got the commercial unit out there working. We've kept all the other units out there. So I feel we're in a pretty comfortable place moving forward. But I just wanted to give you an update on what I've been working on, and Joel, as we continue to get that shelter where you guys want it to be and the citizens want it to be. So thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I was gonna ask you about the temperatures. I know I was out there once this week, and the lobby was hotter than the rest of the kennels at this point. But I just wanna make sure they're still updating you on temperatures. inside
Yeah,
the
this
kennels.
morning Kennel A was 72, Kennel B was 74.5.
Right.
They're all in the low to mid 70s. So.
Right, and those are the only 2 kennels at this point that have dogs in.
Yeah, we've only been, due to our population, if that's the right term, using Kennel C. It's always been in the mid 70s.
Right.
And if we get more, we'll move them over to Kennel A, which is in the low set. Even Kennel B, which doesn't have any of the moving cools, yesterday it was at 78, and it felt absolutely fine.
Okay.
So,
All right, great. All
yeah.
right, just want to make sure we're updated on that. Also, I know that we were out and met with some folks, Joel and I, this week, going through the timelines that it goes with some of the dogs as they come in, right? There's different rules and laws and policies that go around. If the dog comes in and it has an owner, if the dog comes in and it doesn't have an owner, if it's brought in by law enforcement, et cetera, there's different stuff on that. What we've gotten to is, one, I appreciate your guys' work with the Humane Society and the arrangements that the heartworm testing and the basic assessment will be done at a minimum weekly. But we've also expressed to Tracy and the folks out there at the shelter that if the dog is in our possession and that means whether they had an owner or they don't have an owner, it was a stray and it is now the property of the county, and it is going to go down the path of adoption, then that dog needs to be taken to a vet as soon as possible. And I think we're getting back on a weekly schedule, hopefully, that we can reach out and these dogs will be getting to the vet to identify if there's any health concerns before then, fully going into the adoption portal, if you will.
So our vet day is tomorrow. So after tomorrow, all of the dogs in the shelter would have been seen by a vet. Whichever ones hadn't are going to get seen. I think it's 3 tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then every
We had 7 dogs when I was out there, so maybe we added a dog, but maybe that dog goes next week or whatever the process is. But yes,
and
in addition to the Humane Society
Yeah.
and the heartworm testing and then the pending spay and neuter, working in next week, all dogs that are coming in that will be going up for adoption will be going to see the vet as soon as possible, and there isn't much of an excuse to last more than a week or so.
Yeah, and I have a call, already one scheduled, and a couple pending with vets in the area. Once again, service related, best management related, to continue my due diligence. And also, it's the ability to partner. I mean, the help and the assistance is out there.
Yep.
Obviously, we have some constraints with the Ohio Revised Code, and I know I hate saying that, but we have to work within that. But I think the ability to utilize the partners in the community, from volunteers, what have you, will help that operation significantly. But that's going to take some time. We've talked to some folks who have volunteer programs, and you just can't let everybody in there all the time, even though they want to do good things. There's processes and procedures and liability that we have that we want to make sure that we're covered, and what type of uses do we help with the laundry or cleaning, and I think one of our big gaps is dog socialization, because our staff is cleaning, they're on the road. Could we do a better job? We have beautiful pens out there or play areas if dogs are able to go out with a volunteer. So I've learned a lot, and we'll continue to as we phase in these changes. So yeah.
Great.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I just want to take a moment to thank our county administrator, Jason. You've gone above and beyond this entire time, and I'm particularly grateful for the principal partnership we see growing with the Lake Humane Society. The chairman of their board Rich Harmon is an extraordinary man, loves dogs, and I've known him for many years back when he was our fire chief in Willoughby Hills. There is no better person to take the lead and to help us in this mission. So I have full confidence in the work that you're doing, and I want to say thank you again. I do have one question. Now that Lake County Buildings and Grounds has taken over jurisdiction of the building, when do you think we're going to get a full kind of update on what the long-term plan is? Because my understanding is this commercial air conditioner is temporary, that we're going to ultimately decide on a new HVAC system, in addition to the repair of the geothermal. So when do you anticipate we'll have like a plan and report from Buildings and Grounds?
I would say it's going to be a few weeks. We actually had a firm on site, yesterday, to do an audit of the infrastructure, mechanical audit, because there's a grant opportunity. Joel, Zach, and I are going to be on a call Monday for some funds. We would like to have the go forward plan of a new HVAC system this fall, let's say, for potential implementation in the spring is Jason's goal right now. And that also holds true for our data center. We had a meeting with Auditor Galloway and Mark Eiffelis and IT Director Falcone, same thing. It's just everything's at the end of their useful life, and we need to invest in those critical infrastructures, be the dog shelter and IT being two of those. The challenge with the sheriff's office is we're trying to be cost effective, but yet they're facing some heat challenges as well, knowing that we have the building opening up in about a year. So
Thank you.
yep.
Jason, I'd just like to say thank you. Crisis management is never an easy thing, and there's a lot of parts to the problem. You get into identifying the situations and then wanting to react, but there's so many things. And I think about where we were coming out of the holiday week last week. There was a lot of question, and when we spoke with residents during the work session, our assurance to them was that we would take a look at policies and at some point in the future have recommendations. And I'm very pleased with the amount of movement we've seen in a week. I think you did a great job over the holiday weekend dealing with the emergent situation and working through, but I know we've talked every day, and I felt incredibly confident in you and the staff. The last week, that situation out there was very stable, and then you flip from managing it to moving through to taking a look at the policies and making some intelligent decisions about what's next, to reaching out to the partners in the community to make sure that we can quickly pivot to make improvements on some of the concerns that we saw based on you going in there and saying this doesn't look right, and supported by the concerns in the community. So I just want to say job well done. Thank you for your dedication to this. I know it's been a stressful couple weeks, but you've given your all to it, and I know we appreciate it as well as members of the county, so thank you.
Hey, it's more than me. There's a lot of guys and gals who are helping throughout this, so thank you.
Anything else on the dog shelter? Please continue
Okay.
with your report, sir.
Yes. I have with us today, or David Radacci and I, our Planning Community Development Director, Ryan Smalley from Envision, who's been guiding us on our Vision 2050 Master Plan update the better part of the past year. We're kind of rounding third, heading toward home. So I wanted Ryan to come out and kind of give a high-level overview of some of it. You've heard the process, but strategically some of the land use and focus areas we have. And Ryan will be able to take it away and answer any questions. I told him 10, 15 minutes, and we'll go at it. So Ryan, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jason. Thanks for giving me the time to go over this process. It's been a year-long process, and we've been meeting with all kinds of people, everybody under the sun, to try to get an idea of what people want to see in the county and where we want to head over the next 25 years. So I'm going to, as Jason said, kind of go through a real brief overview. So if you have questions, please feel free to jump in and ask them. Just from an overall process standpoint, we started back in June last year, and 4-phase process, about a year is what we projected to have a draft plan in place. We kind of held to that schedule pretty tightly. We had a draft plan here in May. We've been going through review and revisions of that plan through geographic subcommittees, through staff, through planning commission, trying to make that plan optimal over the last couple months. So I'll touch on a lot of these engagement processes here in a minute. So throughout this process, we've been looking to reach out to stakeholders as well as the public pretty extensively. We had an executive committee that was made up of staff and some select jurisdictional representation that helped sort of guide the nuts and bolts of the planning process, where we were headed over the year, who we were going to meet with, how we were going to engage the public. That committee met bi-monthly. And then we broke up all of the jurisdictions, all 23 jurisdictions within the county, into 2 subcommittees. Morgan was on that until he was commissioner on one of them. We met with that group 6 times throughout the process to understand what the communities are looking for. And obviously, from west to east, there's a lot of varied demands. You got the west side that's more suburban and more developed, and then you have the east side that's more rural and still has some specialty agriculture. So we wanted to be cognizant of the demands of all the different entities within the county, and make sure that we were in touch with them throughout this process. And then stakeholder interviews. We did a ton of stakeholder interviews throughout this process, different county staff, nonprofits, trying to get an understanding of what was going on in the county, who was doing what, and where we could maybe make some improvements. Then also public engagement, event outreach, public meetings, community surveys, trying to get a pulse of what the public wanted to see over the next 20 years. As I mentioned, geographic subcommittees, this is just sort of a breakdown of, hey, we split the groups into east and west side, kind of made the most sense right down the middle, 11 and 12 jurisdictions within each group. Each one of those groups, as I mentioned, met 6 times. A lot of those meetings were last summer and fall, where we had themed meetings based on focus areas. So the first meeting was demographics and housing. Then we talked about economic development in our second meeting, parks, rec, agriculture, environmental, sort of a quality of life meeting in August. And then we touched on the transportation system in meeting 4. We brought these groups back together after we had recommendations in December to get their feedback. We also started meeting one-on-one with some of the jurisdictions, as you'll see in the future land use map, where we call out future potential development areas or redevelopment areas. We wanted to make sure that we were in line with what the local jurisdictions were thinking in those areas. So in addition to these meetings, we met one-on-one with Concord Township, Perry Township, some of the places where we anticipate growth in the future. And then in May, once we had a plan sort of put together, we got back in front of that group, and they've had a chance to review it and give us their preliminary comments. Stakeholders, as I mentioned, this is just a listing of some of the stakeholders. We had 2 rounds of meetings with them, initial meetings to just understand what they did and what their role was and how they were impacting the county, where they saw some opportunities in the future for growth. And then once we had recommendations, we met with all these groups again to get their feedback on those recommendations. So some of these were individual, some of these were group meetings, but tried to hit as many different groups as possible that are working with or impacting the county. As far as public outreach goes, 2 waves of public outreach. We had a summer, fall last year. We went across the county. This is one of the pictures from the Willoughby Arts Festival, where we had boards and pin exercises, asking questions, high-level questions about some of the focus areas that we put together with the executive committee and the geographic subcommittees, trying to get public feedback on that. We also had a concurrent community survey that went along with that. We got about 926 responses in person. We got another 2,000 from the community survey. And then in February, once we had a draft plan with some recommendations, we got all of the local zoning and planning commission boards as part of a public meeting together to get their feedback on some of these recommendations as well. As I mentioned really quick, the community survey from last summer got over 2,000 responses. Tried to get a feel for some of the focus area topics: housing, economic development, parks and rec, and amenities and assets from that survey. And a lot of that information helped sort of shape some of the recommendations within the plan. Existing conditions real quick. Last time we had a plan was 1960, so there's a lot to sort of catch up on and update. So just some samplings here of some of the population change. Obviously, since 1960, there's been population growth. It's sort of stagnated in the last 10-ish years, but also looked at housing and workforce and land use. We did an analysis of the existing retail square footage within the county and compared that to other counties so that we could understand and potential infill possibilities throughout the county, and then looked at the transportation and utility network as well. Aging population, I think that's a theme of the area. This chart here is just an example of some of the existing conditions and some of the conditions that helped lead us to some of the recommendations that were in this plan. 65 and over population in Lake County getting bigger, not abnormal in the region. As you can see, all the other counties up there are also getting bigger. But I think this is sort of one of the core tenets of some of the recommendations that we have. So we have an older population. We want to serve that population better. How can we do that? But also, how can we continue to attract new residents into the county? What amenities do we have? How can we leverage our economic development resources and workforce development resources to understand that in the future our population might be going stagnant or going down, and are there ways that we can try to attract or keep more people within the county? So I think this was something that was sort of a focus of some of the recommendations that came out of this plan. As I mentioned, we looked at land use, existing land use. I'm not going to dwell on the chart too much, but took the existing land use of how the land's actually being used today and kind of compared that to 1960s future land use map to see what was actually done. It's kind of an interesting exercise that there were large portions of that plan that got enacted, and then there were some sections that just never came to be. So kind of an interesting exercise for us to understand how the land's used and how development patterns occur throughout the county. As far as recommendations go, kind of threw them into 3 buckets here. So we had our 6 focus areas, which were housing, quality of life, which is sort of a catch-all, had a little bit of senior services, bikes, pedestrian, connections to the lake and the rivers. Transportation was a focus, economic development, workforce development, and government efficiency. Each one of those focus areas had a goal statement, and then objectives underneath them, multiple objectives. I'll show you an example here in a second, and then strategies to actually achieve those goals. So the idea with this is that we wanted to provide that vision, but for items where there was more of an emphasis, we wanted to provide more detail in the plan so that the county could move forward and maybe take some of the case studies within there and start to make those action items. We also put together a future land use map to sort of identify where over the next 20 to 25 years there's going to be either large redevelopment growth or development growth to try to anticipate that. That kind of runs right in concert with the thoroughfare plan, which is a plan that's needed for subdivision regulations that hasn't also been updated really since 1960 to understand where we're going to need potentially wider roads, bigger roads, and plan for that so that if that does occur, we know what size roadways we need. From a goals and objectives and action item standpoint, this is an example of the expanding housing choice focus area, which came up in every one of our discussions. Housing was probably 1A for everything we talked about, both on the west side, central, and east sides of the county. This is just an example of one of the objectives. There's many objectives underneath here to support infill housing development, and as you can see, A through F there, those are some of the action items. The ones that are highlighted are ones that we took some extra time in the plan document to detail out how to actually get some of these things done, or case study examples of how to get these things done.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Commissioners, if I may, on this slide, I think 20 years ago, using the words multifamily, high density, just were like bad words. I mean, Dave, when I started, everybody wanted, and they still do, and there's a market for it. They want their acre and a half of paradise, but the market has changed. When you see, for example, item C, encourage multifamily residential development, there's a market for that. A two-phase market on item C. Seniors who don't need a single-family home anymore will be a multifamily, and then young professionals who maybe don't have the wherewithal for a down payment on a home on the west end. So I found it interesting as these came out that I remember when I started working with Dave in the 2000s, like multifamily and high density was like don't say that. So things have changed in the marketplace. So it's we'll have some selling to do on this in the community. and not to steal any of Ryan's thunder, but I think, yeah, line item E, I think Dave is already working with Willoughby Hills. They reached out on, can you give us a hand with accessory dwelling units to help if mom and dad are downsizing, and can we change the zoning to allow a mother-in-law suite? So some small things like that I was glad to see these come out, so thank you.
And what I'll highlight too on this is that those colored tabs, I'll touch on them in a second. In the bottom there, you see the purple and the yellow and the blue. We tried to, because the county is so different from one end to the other, we tried to take each community and sort of group them into a typology. So, you have your traditional suburban, cities on the western side. You have your expanding suburban areas like Concord in the middle, and then you have some of your rural areas on the east side. We wanted to be able to help the jurisdictions as well with this plan say, okay, which one of these recommendations actually apply to us? So each one of those color codes kind of is a typology for different jurisdictions within the county. And hey, these are the ones that apply to these different groups. So infill housing probably doesn't really make much sense on the eastern side of the county. But a lot of the western communities that were involved in the subcommittee meetings were very interested in ways to find different types of housing in areas where they don't have any more land to build on. So a lot of this talk of infill housing and reutilizing underutilized retail space was a topic of discussion for the west side communities a lot. So we wanted to reflect some of that within here, and this is one of the goals. There's other objectives that talk about housing on the east side as well.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I want to concur that there's still this sense that higher density housing means Section 8 or low income housing that might change the tenor of a neighborhood, when in reality the higher density housing we're talking about in Lake County is really senior housing, condos, having an option for folks to age in place, stay in their community, but not have a multi-level home where they can't go upstairs anymore. And so we kind of have this contradiction where we have this built-in resistance to higher density housing, condos or apartments, when the highest demand for housing right now is just that. And we're not talking about cheap homes or cheap builds. We're talking about very high quality construction that takes the onus off of the homeowner for maintenance and allows them to have maintenance-free living, which is critical as you reach a stage in life where you can't replace a light or mow a lawn. And we really need to be open to that given the increase in our aging population. If there's nowhere to live, they can't stay here even if they want to. And we kind of have to re-educate people about what higher density or multifamily homes means in a given context, which is not to say that some low-income housing isn't necessary, but we conflate the terms and we just assume that one is the other. All of America has always had a romance with Frank Lloyd Wright's Broadacre City, and I think that for most people, when they're raising a family, that's the kind of home they want, a standalone property with a yard and a picket fence for the dog and the cat and the kids. But when folks age, they usually don't want the responsibility of all of that. And rather than go to a condo in Florida, we'd rather have that housing be available right here in Lake County, because I think most people would rather age in place with their family than go somewhere else. But if the housing stock isn't there, you have to move.
Mm-hmm. No, totally agree. And, another byproduct of that is if you have to stay in your house and it's a large lot house, then you're not freeing up a house for the next generation to come in and raise a family with. So it's a cascading problem that, I think not just a Lake County problem, a global problem in the United States, but something that I think, especially on the west side, there was a lot of openness to this in these subcommittee meetings about finding ways to look for different types of housing, denser housing in those established neighborhoods. So
you make a good point, as is my colleague, with respect to how we view it, but speaking from my years of experience in Concord Township, a growing community that for 15 years basically rezoned everything to increase densities. I wouldn't say high because it was still cluster homes or conservation zoning that transitioned the acre and a half lots down to less than acre lots, but preserved open space. So there was striking that balance there between what people traditionally viewed as what they wanted versus the market demands. And every time we had rezones and people were sort of saying, you know, the counterbalance to that was the developers are building it because that's what the market is demanding. And I think adding to that, when you see projects in Willoughby where Commissioner Plechik lives, you know, there's been several there that would be the higher density and stuff, and they're high quality. But there's a lot of work, leadership work by this board and, you know, councils and boards of trustees and whatnot across the county. Once this comes out, there'll be a lot of work, and the market's going that direction. I think people will see that in time, but there's a lot of responsibility we take to make sure that what Commissioner Plechik said is understood in the community.
And I just, I'm sitting here digesting what you're saying, and then once again, I appreciate you coming in, and I don't want to derail your presentation, but it occurs to me these conversations around high-density housing and the need for affordable senior housing, that comes with services, and that comes with a requirement for increased services. Somebody pointed out to me that when Mentor High School used to have 1,000 students in their school system per class, they had a population of about 50,000 residents. And they had about 14,000 households.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they have about 600, 700 kids per class. They still have a population of about 50,000 people, but they have about 20,000 households. And so, as our population is getting older, our household numbers are increasing, but the number per household is decreasing.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't help but think, how is it we're going to pay for that? Because seniors don't typically have an earned income.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can't assess an earned income tax, theoretically, the only other taxes available to us are sales taxes or property taxes. And typically, if you have a expensive or new build, those property taxes go to these communities. And I'm not advocating for property taxes here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm simply saying
No, and
these are difficult conversations and difficult issues, right? In an ideal world, yes, we have all the affordable senior housing that we need that our community members can stay here.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that to be able to pay for that, you also have to embrace the families. You've
Oh, yeah.
got to get earners into this county, probably side by side, right?
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
For every senior that comes in, you may need to have a family come in that's raising children, going to schools, and paying into the income tax portion of our tax pool as it comes in.
Yes.
So I
And-
appreciate everything you're saying.
and that's in here too. And so that was a lot of our discussions throughout
Yeah.
this, is that, you know, it's great to, you know, have be attracting seniors here and trying to keep seniors here. We want that. But we also have to understand that with the dwindling population base, that those realities are going to come in. So part of this, there's in the workforce development focus area, part of it, looks at strengthening existing workforce development ties in the county so that we get more high schoolers and more middle schoolers into jobs that are in the county and keep them here. But also, we put the beginnings of an idea to start looking around the state for, you know, there's a lot of needs with some of the employers in this area. We talked to the chambers, we talked to some of the employers, and there are specialty training needs that just aren't being filled in the county. It's hard. They're trying to find workforce. They can't find it. Can we look around to other counties, and we sort of put the starter kit in here? That would be a whole study in and of itself. But can the county start to market itself to other counties within 2 to 3 hours that have similar job skills, where the county has more things? The county has the lake, the river, has more amenities, pays better. Is there a way that the county could start to look to attract families into the county to help sort of prop up this population decline that might be coming over the next, you know, decade or two? So yes, it's something that's definitely on our mind as we're thinking about these things, because you're right. I mean, at some point
I've had multiple conversations in the last couple of days about Masons, Bricklayers Union, and the need for that. And that job for those, as I understand it, for some of those starting positions, he said the $45 to $50 an hour range.
Mm-hmm.
To be that's a $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 career that we just flat out don't have the folks to do it. It just isn't here, and I have thought that before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say this before I go to the County Commissioners Association meeting later this year, but yes, there's 88 counties. And something tells me that there's some counties out there within a 2 or 3 hour drive that would love to stay in Ohio.
Yes.
They're graduating high school, they maybe go to a trade school, or whatnot, they want to start raising a family. And maybe the economic workforce developments in their area aren't the same as the opportunities that we may have here. Do we market to those areas and say, listen, we got jobs that have openings that for the foreseeable future, we're going to be continuing to need these careers moving forward. So, okay.
So this plants that seed. I think there'd be a lot more that would have to happen. But yeah, that was something that was part of our thought process going through this.
Mr.
is
President?
Think of
Yes,
it.
sir.
And ironically, bringing it back to housing, those multi-family dwellings, those condos and apartments are usually where those young families start too. So while most ultimately want that bigger house when they're in the family raising part of their life, when they're starting their first job in Lake County and when they're retiring, they kind of want the same thing. And so in some sense, we've done a great job of providing the middle part, where when you're in the family mode, we have a lot of homes that fit that, but we really haven't provided for people at the beginning or the end. And if you don't provide for people at the beginning, you never make it to the end. We don't have those families because the people who would start them don't find the housing that they need in Lake County to begin with. So I think that if there's a community that really should get a little extra praise for seeing this, I would give it to my hometown of Willoughby here, because they have been very aggressive about building apartments and condos in their downtown when other cities and townships have been worried that that might fall apart. Because the concern is always that an apartment or a condo is nice when it starts, but then it becomes low-income housing over time. Well, that's true of any housing stock if it's not maintained. If you have a bad neighborhood, no one will invest the money to upkeep the homes, whether they're big, small, or in between. It's not that multifamily dwellings are inherently riskier for a community. It's that the community has to be strong and has to have strong standards for maintaining all the properties, which I would argue Willoughby absolutely does, and they provide a template for the rest of the county. Who wouldn't want downtown Willoughby in their city or their township? No one would say no to that. So we see the horror stories of the apartment building that wasn't maintained, and people are worried, what if this is what my community becomes? But we have to recognize that when you hold things to a high zoning standard, it can be the greatest asset for your community.
Yeah, I would throw Paynesville in that bucket now too. The city administration and Doug and council with what's happening at the river, what's happening right across the street of Victoria Place, embracing that multifamily perspective. And it's more bodies downtown that when we leave at 4:30 or 5, there's going to be a base, not including the growth of Lake Erie College, to go to the restaurants, get a haircut, go have a cocktail, et cetera. You need those bodies in these downtown cores to make them successful. So
I agree. The Marouse construction by the new amphitheater is exactly what we're talking about. It's high quality space where a young professional might start their career, or someone who's looking to downsize in Paynesville can stay in their community, but they can still live in a wonderful spot where they can listen to music in the evening. So we have to look at those housing needs for the young and the old and start to plan, because we really don't have enough of it in Lake County, and it's amazing how quickly it's snapped up.
And I think to your point, we don't set policy for all those communities out there, but you've touched on those communities that want to embrace this. My bet is we'll be more successful than those that don't.
yeah.
Moving forward. And
I should have opened with that comment, Commissioner, that this plan is a macro level document because we don't have zoning authority over any community in Lake County. So this is a guidance document for them. But where this will help on infrastructure grants and land bank grants, because we call out, there's just, by some people may say, oh, this is a generalized document. Well, that's true. We provide the framework, and then, Concord's finishing their plan. Mentor's working on their plan. That'll be the nitty gritty. So we have to respect the 23 local zoning ordinances or resolutions that are out there. So I wanted to say.
Just to what I was saying earlier, I would say it's incumbent on us as commissioners and having roots in each. I mean, we actually spread out pretty well between the three of us as for each part of the county that we live in, and we have these relationships. So I think it's incumbent on us to look at the other comp plans in addition to this one, but then be advocates for the things that are in there, and then figure out how How does the Mentor comp plan, how does the Painesville and the Concord one and all the other ones, how does that mesh up with this, and what's the path to success? And I think that's the role that the county takes as more of a leadership position in sorting through the local issues and making this a success. So obviously this particular slide has soaked up a lot of conversation, and look, this is exactly what we wanted. We want positive conversation and want excitement about taking action. So thank you.
The only other thing I'll close with is to say the comment about families want, when they have kids, to have more space. As a father of an 11 and soon to be 8-year-old, I can tell you the more space you have, the more space they clutter up and get dirty. So it's one of those, it's a trade-off, to say the least. So sorry, you were saying, sir.
No, it's fine. This is great. I was just kind of going through and just giving you some high-level highlights of some of the focus areas. Just a couple of the other ones. I didn't put all of them in here. Quality of life was one of the focus areas. It was kind of a all-encompassing focus area, looking at improving access to the lake, continuing to improve access to the Chagrin and Grand Rivers. There was a lot of senior recommendations within their bike and pedestrian connections, continuing to improve our parks. All of that was sort of bunched under quality of life. We did talk to the senior study that's going on concurrently with this, and sort of make sure that we were comparing notes so that things were talking to each other. Economic development was a huge part of this as well. We talked to Lake County, Lake Development Authority countless times throughout this, trying to better understand their role in the county and talking to local jurisdictions. So there are a lot of recommendations specific to Lake Development Authority in here, and expanding their role as sort of the economic development leader in the county, and maybe even expanding their role to assist jurisdictions that just don't have dedicated economic development staff. And that was something that came out of our subcommittee discussions, was like, okay, yeah, this might be a good place to help plug them in. So a lot in there to digest with Lake Development Authority. I mentioned this real quickly at the beginning. These are just, we sort of broke down each one of the jurisdictions into different geographic typologies, and that was sort of helpful to segregate them. When we had action items throughout this plan, we kind of tabbed each one of the action items with their color, so that, hey, if you're in Painesville, these things kind of apply to you, rather than, hey, in Madison, maybe this doesn't apply to you, this one does. So more of an organizational framework to try to put these jurisdictions into groups. It's kind of hard. Some of these kind of span some different groups. So this was the best attempt. As far as future land use goes, we did put together a parcel by parcel future land use map, 10 typologies within there that sort of are general future land uses throughout the county. And what this was meant to do was identify redevelopment, or a large redevelopment or development areas over the next 20 years. We basically circled these areas in red on the maps and kind of listed them there on the right. Obviously, East Lake Power Plant, the Great Lakes Mall, some of those large redevelopment projects that we anticipate in the near future, but then also some development areas, Lane Road, north of the Grand River in that area. Probably a good chance that develops over the next 20 years. Some places out by Madison, out by 528, and in Concord Township, obviously continued residential growth. So these areas that we show on these maps, and you can take a dive into all these at your leisure. We broke we broke the county into 3 sections, west, central, and east, just to sort of provide a little bit more detail. The areas that are circled are those redevelopment or development areas where we think there could be some change over the next 20 years. That's the East Lake Power Plant, number 1. Number 2 is in Wickliffe with some of the redevelopment of the industrial areas. 3 is the Great Lakes Mall. 4 is State Route 306 down to US 6 with the potential for expanded utilities in that area. Same on the central, some places in Concord where we anticipate some additional suburban residential growth, and then the Lane Road corridor, which is the big one there in the middle. One of the things we heard a lot throughout this process was industrial users don't have the ability to really expand within the county. There's not a lot of land for them to expand. So finding a place within the county to allow that expansion, some green fields. So you'll notice in the middle there that purple area around Lane Road there is what we're calling calling an employment center. It could be industrial, it could be office, commercial, where there could be some new greenfield expansion of industrial development in the future. All of these recommendations were talked to with each one of the townships, each one of the jurisdictions, to make sure that we are in coordination with them, because again, they are the ones that are running their zoning, and all of these things reflect that. And then in the east, in Madison by 528, some potential expansion there, and then also up on Northridge Road in the future in Madison Township, some potential retail expansion. So those were the 8 focus areas of the future land use map. And then we also completed the thoroughfare plan. There hasn't been an update to this in 60 years either. So this will help Dave with updating the subdivision regulations. This is something that's required within the subdivision regulations to help justify what type of roadway, if a subdivision comes in, what's the right of way width, what can be put within those roadways. So we provided a bunch of different typologies, typical sections for different types of roadways with different types of right-of-way needs, and then also worked with the county engineer to identify some areas where there might be some potential study needs in the future for widenings, for intersection improvements, so that the engineer could go after grant money, point back to this document, use this as the impetus to go get grant money to study those things in the future if needed. The back end of this document has an implementation matrix. Every one of the action items is detailed within here. Who's supposed to be leading this? Who are the partners? What's the time frame? What's the progress on these as we go forward and move forward? So a way to sort of just detail these things out so that Jason and the local jurisdictions can look at this and say, okay, what are we doing first? How are we going to go forward? And that's the majority of the back end of the document. And we already kind of had questions, but any more? So that's a summation of the document. We're at a point right now where the Planning Commission has had this document for about 2 or 3 weeks. I can't remember how long. In July, they're going to provide any comments that they have. Jason and staff have already looked at this multiple times. The subcommittees, the geographic subcommittees have looked at it and given us comments. So I think the idea is that, and Dave jump in or Jason jump in if I'm wrong, but in July, the Planning Commission will look to have any comments and try to approve that up to the commissioners, and then in August have you guys provide comments, and if we're good to approve, right?
Yeah, I'll let Dave, you want to speak to the timeline?
Yeah, timeline, we gave it to the planning commission last month and we had the same presentation. We were looking to get comments back from them and hopefully get an adoption in end of July, and then back to you in August to get this finally adopted fully.
Mr. Radacci, could you make sure that we're aware of the meeting when this will be adopted at Planning Commission?
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I just want to say I appreciate the work that went into this and the foresight and the fact that we haven't had a plan done. Some people might find this surprising. I'm typically not a fan of studies. I will say, and this is just my one favor or request here at this point, in no way do I want to, obviously we've done a ton of work on here. It has occurred to me, and shame on me for this, but the conversation, and we've had these conversations before, and I can't really even want to recommend this, but when we're done with Vision 2050, I really think that we should look into doing a study on our social services as it relates to our citizens. I don't know that this got into that per se, and that's great if you're rounding third and heading home, to the extent, not that I want to redo it or anything like that, just understand that any recommendations or
It's in there.
any dovetail into what could potentially come
I
next.
think, I'll paraphrase, I haven't looked at it in a few weeks, but their conversations in the nonprofit space, I think a better coordinated effort or leader is recommended in this plan.
Yeah.
That was recognized in the social service world. I think that's what you and I have talked about
Yeah.
the past year. I think they recognized that during their who's doing what, when, and where. And
Yeah.
So that is, there's a couple bullet points, I believe, Ryan?
Yeah, there are under the last focus areas, government efficiency, and underneath there, we talked to the nonprofits, the housing nonprofits, in group settings multiple times, and what kind of came out of that was, yeah, we need to have somebody that's sort of guiding this ship
And I
forward.
hate to be that guy that keeps pounding the drum on that, but
I mean, they heard it as well. So.
yeah, I just think that moving forward, we need to once again, as we talked about an aging population, whether we have the high density housing or not, our population is getting older. Our services for those folks, as we know, economic times are getting more and more difficult, and so I'm happy to hear that's in there. I just think this is going to be a great foundation to then potentially. I might actually advocate for a study to be done. I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth, but shocking, yes.
Shocking.
But I do think it's time, and I do think it's an appropriate conversation. And I think is evident there is a lack of leadership and coordination in that world. And I think that with the finite resources we have moving forward, we have got to make sure that we're deploying those to the areas that need
I
it most.
think it's not lack of effort in that space. It's just lack
not.
of coordinated effort.
It's
Coordinated effort,
agreed.
and I would say, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Agreed. I agree.
And
Thank you.
that's a shameless plug for the best breakfast spot in the county.
Yeah, we put this
Mr.
on a lot of-
President?
Subtle, Jason. Yes, sir.
First of all, I have to concur. Kleifeld's is an extraordinary place that truly does live up to its slogan, good coffee, always. I definitely frequent it quite a bit. But I do just want to share for the benefit of the public how this planning process started, because it has been such a long time since we've had a comprehensive plan. I remember reading through the different comprehensive and master plans of our various cities and townships, and in looking at Mentors, which they're now redoing this year as well, I was really struck by what an extraordinarily high-level plan it was. And I noticed that one of the co-authors of Mentors' last comprehensive plan was none other than our county administrator, Jason Boyd. And I asked him if he was truly a co-author, if it was just an honorary mention. He said, no, this is my background, and I spent a lot of time and work and effort on this plan. I said, well, it's clearly the best one in the county, but where's the county plan? Are we the shoemaker whose children has no shoes? And Jason informed me that there had been some talk, I guess 20 some years ago, about having a plan when one former commissioner ran against a current commissioner, and they both demanded a comprehensive plan because it had been decades since there'd been a renewal. But as soon as the campaign was over and the incumbent won, he said, oh, that was just campaign talk. I don't really care about this. And so that was the closest we came over the last 65 years to having an update to our comprehensive plan. I said, well, Jason, no, we're doing this. And I have been very grateful for the excitement we've seen from our planning department and Director Radacci, as well as the hard work that Jason has put in. This man is qualified to write a comprehensive plan, but had the objectivity to say, to do something of this nature, you really need someone from the outside who could take all the expertise that we have and all that we know, but give an objective third-party view in addition to the insider knowledge that our staff contributes. And so this has really been a Herculean effort to update a plan that hasn't seen a touch for over 6 decades. The world is a very different place since we last planned. The initial thought was all of Lake County, if you go back to the last plan, would end up like Willowick, that there was going to be this explosive post-World War II growth, and we were going to have postage stamp yards with very much Cleveland-style, housing and high density. I mean, if you look at Willowick on the map of Lake County, it's one of the smallest municipalities geographically, but it has a huge population. You compare Willoughby Hills, which is about 10,000 people, to Willowick, which is 16,000, and Willoughby Hills looks huge on a map. Willowick looks tiny, but in reality, Willowick is like 50% larger in terms of population. So the world we expected, a Lake County that became very dense, did not realize, and instead, we really have density on the west side with really a rural atmosphere on the east side, and that's wonderful, but it's a very different outcome than what our our earlier predecessors thought the world would look like 65 years ago. So it was mission critical to get this update with a more realistic look at how the county is growing and in fact wants to responsibly grow going forward. I don't think people in Concord necessarily want to have the postage stamp yard and the entire township is filled to bursting. But that was the initial view of how all Lake County was going to be. I think they also planned on having 3 major airports in Lake County because we were going to have such a high population in the 600,000-700,000 range. We were going to need to have 3 airports to accommodate that. So I'm sure that the future in 2050 will look somewhat different than we anticipate too. But as Benjamin Franklin famously said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so I'm really proud that this is the first Board of Commissioners in 65 plus years that understood how important it was to make this investment really in time and planning, especially with reaching out to all the municipalities, many of whom are updating their plans at the same time, so that we can collaboratively and collectively have a vision for what Lake County should look like over the next 25 years. And that way we don't have the kind of haphazard growth that plagued Atlanta, that plagued cities and counties that just grow randomly. And then the amount of resources and money it takes to service those communities is exponentially higher because there's no organization. You didn't run the plumbing and the pipes. You didn't widen the streets in the right areas, but you invested in places that never grew. We don't want that to be our story. We want to make sure that we are as efficient as possible and that we're working together for a shared vision of the best county, not just in Ohio, but in the United States. And we're really grateful for your help on that.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
You said the last time the old plan was 1960.
1960, yeah.
John F. Kennedy was elected president in 1960, so that's how dated our planning thinking is. So, looking forward to getting this done and seeing what's next for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
I appreciate it.
That was a quick 10 minutes.
So, yeah, 10, 15, 16 max. Anything else, Mr. County Administrator?
That concludes my report.
Fantastic. Madam Clerk, you've done a wonderful job today, by the
Why,
way.
thank you.
Yes, excellent pinch hitting. Yes,
I did it. Short agenda.
yes, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Me too. So our next meeting, hopefully Jen will be here, is next Thursday, the 23rd at 10, and we will have a workshop following that at 10:30.
Okay, thank you very much. Legal? Anything to add today at all?
No reports, Commissioner.
Fantastic. I appreciate that. Gentlemen, is there any old business? I do want to say I've made the promise that we're going to talk about dog shelter issues and updates on that. I've said in the old business section. Obviously, we covered that in your report, so I appreciate that. So I have nothing else to add on that topic here in old business. Any other new business? I do want to point out it is that time of the year where I have to make sure everybody is aware that the fair is coming. It's about 2 weeks, I believe, or so, give or take. The first day of the fair is July the 28th. You and I have gone on and on about our love of the auction, the 4-H livestock auction, which is on Saturday, August 1st, the Saturday fair. But I do want to make sure that not only are we attending the 4-H auction on Saturday, August 1st, but the other important auction, which I'm going to be participating in heavily this year, is the baked goods auction, which is Tuesday night after the parade. As you finish the parade, stroll on over to the entertainment tent. All the amazing apple pies and cookies and all those other things that we probably shouldn't be enjoying are auctioned off. So you have the opportunity to literally bid on the first place apple pie, peach cobbler, if you will. So I'm excited for the upcoming fair, 28th of July through the 2nd of August. Obviously go to their website to find out the schedule of events. But I look forward to seeing both of you gentlemen at a minimum on Saturday night at the 4-H auction. But then Tuesday night's a little bit more economical, a little bit lower price points. But highly encourage those that can make it to please come out and join us. So,
Mr. President.
yes, sir.
Since you are the expert, I wanted to ask, Is it not the case that the 4-H auction this year is actually being split into 2 segments? Could you
Yes.
explain that for the audience? Because this is the first time.
Second time. So they started this last year. It actually worked way better than I anticipated. Registration, I believe, starts at 10. So you get there, you get your buyer's book. They usually have a spread of food out if you're hungry, but obviously you can walk a couple feet, get some fair fries and shakes and stuff like that if you need to. Registration starts at 10. The poultry and small animals starts at noon. And then the larger animals, your goats, your lambs, your steers, your hogs, are at 4. So they do split that up, a little bit of a break in the middle there. So last year, I had my reservations about the timing, and it was great. It allows the auction to get done a little bit earlier, so that we're not there at 11 or 12 at night, which sometimes happens. And there's some communities, there's some county fairs, auction starts at 9, 10 a.m. and goes to 11 or 12 at night, and they're auctioning all day long. So, but yes, we did change the time. They did change the timing. 10 o'clock is registration. 12 o'clock is when the poultry and small animals starts, and then 4 o'clock is when the larger animals will start. So.
And Mr. President, I would only add, I'm very grateful to you and to our many elected colleagues who come out to the 4-H auction. I think that every elected official in Lake County should come out to support the kids. Most folks don't realize that the money goes directly to the kids, and most of them use it for their college education, many of whom go on to become vet techs and veterinarians themselves, continuing the tradition of agriculture and farming in Lake County and across Ohio. And so it really does support the core industry of agriculture and that tradition by participating in the fair and participating in the fair auction. I've seen Dr. Komar, I've seen Dr. Keep from our coroner's office there almost every year. I know Judge Rupel was there last year, but I'd really love to see more. And you are the indisputed king of 4-H auctions. There's no question about it.
Not necessarily.
You've come to be feared in the Tri-County area for your bids, but very much loved by the kids because your generosity is an example for all of us. And once again, I would humbly put out the challenge to every elected official: come out and support the kids. It makes a huge difference. And ultimately, if we want to see agriculture continue to succeed in Lake County, if we want to see people go on to become veterinarians and help the animals, we need to be supportive of those kids.
I appreciate that, and I echo. Sometimes I've been known to say challenging things at times, and yes, I will be judging any elected official in this county that does not show up at the 4-H auction. Not our prosecutor. He's a gentleman and a scholar, but maybe anybody else in the back of the room. But no, I appreciate that, and it is an amazing opportunity, and those kids do appreciate it. It's a pretty humbling experience when you get the buyer's letters and when you see the appreciation from a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old. If some random county commissioner shows up, it's just it is impactful. And did you want to take a second to talk about? And echoing on the lessons learned there, Morgan and I had an opportunity to take a couple visits, and
I've had a couple opportunities to meet the 4-H kids, and admittedly, until coming here, I know that Commissioner Beveridge has been big into it for a while and understood, and I was notably absent last year at the auction, but will absolutely be there this year. But had a chance to meet these kids and understand. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My father, pretty much his entire life that I was with him, he ran a business, and I learned a lot from him. But at the age these children are and the things that they understand about a work ethic and just managing costs and being responsible, I've told several of them they are miles ahead of many adults in the world as far as having a comprehension and understanding about planning financially and taking a look at things and being able to understand investment and profit. And if I do this, I'm just blown away with the quality of the kids in the program, and really looking forward to getting out there and participating this year and talking about the opportunities I'm really excited about some of the things that we're going to get to do. So.
awesome. Thanks. Any other new business? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session for personnel or employment.
So moved.
Second.
No business will be conducted following executive session. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Commissioner McIntosh?
Aye.
Commissioner Plechnik?
Yes.